What's up YouTube, Jake Hoffman here. I had somebody ask me the other day about my flybarless control settings on my OMP M2. So I'm going to go over it real quick. Quick video, just show you what my settings are on the controller and then explain what I set my pitch at and etc, etc. So I use the Sun satellite receiver for Spectrum. Real easy to program, not very expensive. It's got a push button bind button, works great. It's got a really short lead too, so that helps with, you know, trying to keep it clean. This is a smaller machine, so it's nice to have it tidy as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go over the settings here. If you're not familiar with the OMP Hobby M2 V2 flybar controller, there's a set button here, and you hold this down for 3 seconds and it will go into the settings menu, and you got all your different settings here. So rudder, elevator, and aileron, and then servo, pitch, speed, agility, and gyro. So I'm going to go ahead and just hold the set button down for about 3 seconds. Okay, so my first setting here is my rudder speed. If you count the blinks there, it's at 6. So this is the speed at which the rate per second would be for your tail speed. The higher the number, the faster the speed. The lower the number, the slower the speed. I could be wrong. Others may have more information on this, but I do believe the stock setting is 5 for sure, but I do believe that 5 is around 450 per second. I haven't calculated it, but I do run most of my helicopters at about 450 to 5, depending on the size. So then, of course, to go to the next setting, you just press the set button one time. And now we're at the gyro. Now this is the gyro setting for the lock on your tail. So if you increase it, of course, you could possibly get tail wag. You could get excessive tail stop or pre-stop. If it's too low, the tail can kick or kick out. You could lose tail position, say like anything in a hurricane or backwards flight mainly, especially counterclockwise. I have mine set here at, I gotta count it again, let's see here. It looks like 6 or 7. Anyway, I've been playing with this setting a little bit because I've been having some tail issues with the tail not holding. And then sometimes it holds too good. So you just got to play with it one step at a time. Don't do 2 or 3 settings at once. I would recommend just doing one setting, fly it, come back, make adjustments. So next you got your elevator. Now this is your elevator speed. So this tells exactly how fast your roll rate would be for your elevator. So if you wanted it, you know, 300, 400, 500, this would be where you would do it. Stock setting is 5, and I have mine turned up a little bit because I like a faster roll rate, especially with something with real high pitch. That's just all a personal preference. So there you go. And we'll go to the next setting. Oh, I'm sorry. So my setting on this one is 7. I do believe I have it on both. I did have it at 4, went to 5, went to 6. I seem to like 7 right now. We'll see how it goes. So now this is your agility. The agility would be, by what I understand, it's kind of like a flybar at the lowest setting, closest to flybar. And the higher you get it, the more natural the helicopter would feel. So the response to the helicopter, as far as how fast the cyclet works, it would control kind of like, I'd say, a dual rate, or I'm sorry, an expo maybe. It depends on how to explain it. I prefer it lower. When it was a little bit higher, for instance, like out of the box, it was okay, but I like it more robotic feeling, and I like it more, of course, to a flybar. So 5 would be 0, would be middle. 1 would be closest to flybar, we'll say, and all the way up to 9 would be more less robotic and smooth. So you have to play with this one. I did it one step at a time. I also went from really aggressive, so from 9, and then went to 1 to really see the difference. And let me tell you, I would tread really lightly because it does make a huge difference. So same thing here, elevators the same thing. Your gyro, this would be more like a P gain or maybe even I, depending on it. If I was having some pirouetting issues, so as I'd put the helicopter into a pirouette, the head would bobble. So the tail or the nose would go down or up as I was pirouetting. And as adjusting the gyro on the elevator and cyclic, I made a match, it took that away. So for instance, if you're doing a pass, we'll say a flyby next to you forward, and you hit the elevator up or down, if the tail would bounce or you'd get a bobble, so to speak, that would mean that you'd want to turn this rate up. If you turn it down, then of course when you'd hit your elevator under like a really heavy pitch or something like that, it would overshoot or possibly maybe even make it not really respond very much, maybe cause the helicopter to bank kind of funny. I went in both directions, and the only thing, like I said, I had the one issue is when it was in a pirouette and idle up 2, which I have mine at about 85%, it would bobble. It would have a small bobble during pirouetting. Other than that, it didn't really do much for me. But yeah, so there's that. So of course it goes the same way. The ailerons, I have the same thing there, agility, and of course the gyro gain. I recommend matching the gyro gain for the ailerons and the elevator. I did have them 2 blinks off of each other, and I did notice in some, we'll say 4-point aileron rolls, that the helicopter would kind of respond kind of slow. It would flip and then it would kind of overshoot a little bit. So I kept them the same, and it seems to be working pretty well. So now we're gonna go to the next setting. Okay, so servo, this is where you would control your servo trims. You want to kind of keep your servo here at 90 degrees. So like if you're looking at the helicopter here, you want it 90 degrees with the servo horn attachment. For newbies who haven't, well, I'm still a newbie, but for people who don't really understand what this is for. And of course you can adjust your servo control with your radio. So on each one, it's a different stick. So this one here is the rudder. So rudder left will go down and rudder right would go up, and so forth. If you were going to control the elevator servo, and I'll go back here to the elevator if you guys can see it, using the elevator stick would cause the elevator, makes sense, go up and down. So up elevator makes it go up, and down elevator makes it go down. I recommend that you get your servos 90 degrees, so that way you get a nice level swash. I haven't found a swash leveler yet, so I use an older method. But of course, here's your aileron, which would be servo number 2, and of course that's with your aileron left and right. So left is up, right is down. And then of course, according to everybody else, just keep it level as you can, and then use your swash plate connecting arms to make it level or get your pitch at 0. That's the next setting we will be going over. But I've never seen a video yet on anybody explaining the servo trim, which is kind of important after a crash, because if you bend something like a rotor head grip, or maybe one of the swash plate arms, which I have done that. I have bent this one once. It was bent kind of funny. So when I went back to my repair and I went to swash plate servo trim, the swash plate was unlevel, and it was plainly sane as day. So just remember, when you go into servo trim, whatever you trim it at prior, that's where it'll stay. I use it after crashes to keep my servo arms at 90 degrees. So I have another video on that about servo arm replacement, and it seems to work pretty well. That way you get the same flight characteristics after a crash. So now we're going to go to our next setting, which is pitch. So pitch is what you would use to control how much pitch you would like. I do recommend when you set your pitch, this is my flight mode switch here, that if you look at it real carefully here, when you switch from your normal mode, which is here, to idle up 1, it changes. And that's because the gyro, the self-leveling gyro, is not activated anymore. So when you do your servo trims, make sure that you have it in idle up 1 or 2. It doesn't matter. Those two series carry the same characteristics as far as no bank angles. Now, if you go to idle up normal, at normal mode, the gyro actually is trying to self-level itself. So when you do your pitch or any adjustments, make sure you're in at least idle up 1, and of course you want hold mode active. Now the beeping you hear now, this is when you have it in the flybar controller settings mode. After a while it'll start to beep at you, letting you know that you are still in control mode. You can either restart it, which you'd want to make sure to save all your settings that you just made, that you do have to hold the set button down for another 3 seconds. So before we do that, I'm going to show you the pitch adjustment real quick. So take your blades, turn them like so. Okay, now you got the helicopter. We'll go like this. You got the helicopter this way. You take a look at your blades. Now as you adjust your pitch here, see that's full collective, and then that would be negative collective. Now I am missing a swashbuckler arm, so it's going to make it hard to see, but this is how you would adjust your pitch. So you would go to full positive, and then you would use your hold on, let me see, I believe it's the rudder stick. Oh no, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. It's the elevator stick. Okay, that's right. Sorry, another helicopter. So you use your elevator up to increase the pitch and elevator down to decrease the pitch. You do your setting in maximum collective and full negative collective. It is very impediment that you keep the point between here and here the same for both positive and negative. I run about 12.5 degrees. You got to use a little trigonometry to figure that out, or if you have a pitch gauge small enough, I just draw a small pitch degree angle on a piece of paper in a triangle. I'll make a video on that if anybody requests that, to show you how to exactly get your pitch right. Other than that, we're going to go over to here because this thing's still barking at me, and we're going to show you guys to keep all your settings. So to keep your settings, you're just going to hold the set button down, and there you go. All your settings are saved. Now, one other thing I didn't go over we'll say we'll go back into settings mode. In order to change any of your settings, which I did not address, and I apologize, if you're going to change like your speed or whatever it is, this is rudder. So remember, it starts out with rudder, elevator, and then aileron. You simply go over and you bump your aileron stick or elevator in one direction, and that will increase. If you go down, it will decrease, and that's how you adjust each individual setting. And make sure when you go out, you hold it down like so, and then that would be your basic settings. Now for radio configuration, if you want to add expo and stuff like that, I do have expo in mine. If you see here, that's my first rate. It's 100, 15% expo. And then of course elevator's the same. I do run quite a bit of rudder expo because I have a lazy thumb, and it helps keep my circuits a lot smoother. I don't have to make huge adjustments, but of course when I get out of the exponential on the stick, then I get my full travel. I do have different settings, so 0, and then these two I haven't really played with too much. I do run 40, 30, and 10 depending on the flight I'm doing. As I'm progressing in my flights, I've been getting better, so I've been using less expo. It helps the helicopter not be so twitchy, so to speak, in the tail. Because I have an issue with, because I'm a thumb flyer, with when I do any type of circuit flying or tic-tocs or barrel rolls or anything like that, I have a tendency to move the stick not exactly straight up and down. So I use the expo to help correct that towards the middle of the stick. So I hope you guys liked the video. I'll make more here in the future. Please subscribe to my channel. More information as much as I can gather it for the OMP and any other helicopter I fly. And any questions or comments, just leave them down below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. I do check my YouTube daily. So if you have any questions or anything, don't be afraid to shoot, an answer. And if anything I'm explaining, you have a better answer for me, or if it's something I'm explaining, please do so. Leave a comment and let's make sure we're teaching people right. So other than that, be cool.